What do we do now? Final score yesterday in Oxford, Ole Miss 38, A&M 35. We're going to talk about the game just a little bit, but what I really want to talk about now is what do we do with Jimbo Fisher if we're an A&M fan? Because there's a lot of conversation around, well, if they go 8-4, well, if they go 7-5, and like that record conversation starts to feel a little bit less meaningful. And I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but I think we got to have a real honest conversation now about where things stand with the Jimbo Fisher experience in College Station, Texas. So before we get to that, make sure you subscribe right here to the On3 YouTube channel. It's college football and only college football every single day of the year on Sunday mornings. Like we're doing right now, ton of content for you. Tell the Truth Sunday. Tell the truth about what happened the day before, and no hot takes, no agendas, just kind of talking ball the way that you want it to be talked. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JDPikel. Would love to hear from y'all about this topic. Because it's a tough one now, man. Like the game itself from yesterday kind of starts to feel secondary to this conversation around Jimbo Fisher and his future in College Station. Like A&M scored 35. The problem was the offense isn't good enough. Like that's what we said last year. Hey, the offense is got so many weapons. Why aren't they scoring more? They scored 35 yesterday. They were in position at multiple times to win that game, especially at the end there. I mean, Ole Miss is a good football team. Wasn't like they rolled out there and just got upset by some lackluster operation. Also should be said, for context, like A&M's playing with a backup quarterback. Now, I think Max Johnson can start a lot of places across the SEC, but like you don't have Connor Wegman. That was the guy that you wanted to roll with. A&M didn't roll over and play dead. They fought hard. I don't think it's a culture problem. Like on paper, you have everything there to be successful. On paper, A&M has everything in there to potentially be a double-digit kind of win football team. You expect now with how much you've put in to compete for SEC titles and how long it's been under Jimbo Fisher. And so at some point in time, like I said, the game starts to feel secondary. Very, very wise individual in cinematic history named Yoda has a great quote. He says, "Do or do not, there is no try." And that's kind of where it feels like we're at now with Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. At what point is the how less important? At what point do we just start looking at the results and say, hey, yes, we were close. Yes, we have a lot of guys in this roster. Yes, we're playing with a backup quarterback. Yes, it's a good team. But at some point, when is the what going to matter more than the how? And I think we're sort of approaching that point because there's a lot of valid arguments to stick with Jimbo Fisher. Like there's a lot of reasons to believe in Jimbo Fisher and to keep on pushing forward and believe that it's eventually going to figure itself out. Great roster. He has a national championship to his resume. Huge buyout. Like the buyout itself is a conversation that maybe makes you kind of kick this can down the road. But like, that's just it. At what point are we kicking the can down the road to everybody's detriment? Because the longer this thing drags on, it starts to feel a lot more like those toxic relationships that your friends had in high school or college or whatever. Like at what point are we thinking this thing is going to end in happily ever after? Is that really the thought? Is this really a situation where we end in a national title at some point for Jimbo Fisher? Because the way that it looks now, I don't think we're doing a service to both parties. At what point are we just hurting everyone involved? For Jimbo Fisher, he doesn't want to have this conversation every other offseason, every loss, and say, well, is his seat hot? Well, is it really going to work? Well, like people like me talking behind a microphone and saying, is it really going to work? Like at what point is that a detriment to Jimbo Fisher? And for A&M, they don't enjoy underachieving. They didn't sign up for this. Like nobody is getting what they want out of this thing right now. And so it feels a lot like the writing is on the wall. And the incriminating thing is you're losing to teams with less rosters. And when I say lesser rosters, I don't mean by a large margin, mind you. Like Tennessee, really good football team. Ole Miss, we said it, really good football team. But with what Jimbo Fisher has in-house and the way they've recruited, you're expecting more. You're expecting to at least split a game like that or a series like that against Ole Miss and Tennessee, not lose to both. And again, they were in both those games. They fought hard in both those games, but they came up short in both those games. What are we expecting here? Because I think what you feel about Jimbo Fisher and what you think should happen next is all about your expectations and about what you want out of this relationship. Do you want to just, be happy? Do you want to just settle for good enough? Have some good moments, have some bad moments, but at the end of the day, like we can be 8-4, we can be 9-3. maybe every now and then you'll have a pop year and win 10 football games, and that'll be great, and we'll talk about it, and we'll go to New Year's Six Bowl, and we'll sell a lot of T-shirts, have a lot of hype for next year, probably still recruit well, a lot of resources, but like at what point is that not good enough? Because it feels like we're starting to reach that point. Because I think expectations, by nature of the conversation that A&M had when they hired Jimbo Fisher, was national championships. And what does data tell us to expect here is what I think we really got to talk about. Since he's been there, 8-4, 7-5. COVID year was great, 9-1. 8-4, 5-7, now 5-4. So with normal circumstances, the best record we've seen is 8-4. A&M lost their fourth game yesterday. The best they can finish in the regular season is 8-4. I think we have our answer here. And this isn't me calling for Jimbo Fisher's job. This isn't me saying I don't think he's a good head coach. Like, Jimbo Fisher has a very, very solid resume. He's got something that not a lot of very, very few coaches have in college football that are still coaching right now. It's a national title to his name. Okay, he's been successful at the highest level. But I think at some point, again, you kind of look at both parties and say, are either of us happy here? Neither of us are getting what we want. And we can try and stick it out, and we can try and go another year or two. But don't you think the couples that make the right decision sooner rather than later are happier sooner rather than later? I don't think this thing with Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M is ending in happily ever after. And I think the sooner that both parties are able to get on board with that, I think the better it's going to be long term. And the conversation around the buyout, I keep saying conversation because that's what this is. The buyout itself, it's a lot of money. Like, let's not kid ourselves. $70 million or right around that number, $67.5 million, that's a lot of money. But can we be candid? A&M's good for it. A&M's good for it. Is it more than you would ever want to pay to fire a head coach? Yeah. But this is a sticky situation. I said it on a previous video. A&M, by nature of how they put this buyout together, they bought Jimbo Fisher a wedding ring on the first date and said, if you and me together forever, we're going to make this thing work till death do us part. It's the first date. It's the first date. And so now we're sitting here with the results that we've gotten, staring down the barrel of another 8-4 season. The how feels less important. The reasons to stay together feel less important because I don't think either party is going to be happy in the long term. I don't think you're going to get to what either party expects. And so I think this should be a mutual parting of ways. And I don't think Jimbo Fisher is going to say, yeah, fire me. But I think they will eventually be better for each other separately than they are right now. So you hate this for Jimbo Fisher. I hate talking about coaches and their jobs, period. Just quite frankly, not something that I enjoy doing by any stretch of the imagination. But by nature of what's been going on in College Station, something we got to talk about, something we got to look in the face, and something I think A&M has to really sit down and talk about. Where is this thing going? Are we really better for another year together? Are we really better for another year hoping we can win 9 games? I think we kind of know where this thing is headed. I think the writing's on the wall. So what A&M does now going forward, I don't know, but I would just leave you with this. I think the hard thing, especially in a situation like this, is often the right thing. So we'll keep an eye on it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a minute of what we got going on here. Let me know in the comment section. Also, let me know on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at JD Piquel. Tweet at me, DM me, all that. Do you think A&M and Jimbo Fisher have kind of run their course? Curious to hear your thoughts. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.